episode of Tune and Drive. Today we're going to do something different. We are standing in front of TC Designs in Campbell, California, where brothers Joe and Tony Colicchio have been building badass roll cages for the past 15 years. Let's walk inside, shall we? So Tony, thanks for taking the time to meet with me today. Can you expand a little bit more about TC Designs and what TC Designs specializes in?
Sure. We started around 15 years ago. We specialize in roll cages and chassis prep. Over the last 5 years or so, we've really begun to do a lot of full builds on BMW race cars. Won a national championship in 2013, and then after that, it's kind of snowballed as far as how much more we do on the cars. So literally, this year we've built 2 identical clones of E46 M3s to race in NASA ST3 for 2 customers, and their goal was to have a car that was faster than mine. So it's kind of been an ebb and flow. We still do a lot of chassis work, and we do a lot of chassis work for other shops in the Bay Area as well.
Well, you guys definitely have a great fan base. Everybody's trying to chase to beat you. So it's kind of neat that your customer base look up to you and your success. I also noticed in your Instagram feed, you've been traveling around the country, meeting key talent in the sheet metal fabrication world. Are you learning the sheet metal trade, and are you applying it to TC Design?
Yeah, definitely. It's been something that I've had to use my brain again, and really, kind of go back to learning new skills that are very hard to learn. It's not very intuitive often. So what I've done is I've kind of seeked out a bunch of masters, and the one that I'm working with currently is Faye Butler, who's definitely a master in sheet metal and a lot of other things as well. And his whole premise is based on science. So he teaches you at a very molecular level of what's going on with the sheet metal, and it helps me as someone that came from a scientific background of what's going on. And I've gone through I'm in his apprentice program at this point. It took a little while to get in there and convince him I was worthy, and he is very open with his knowledge as long as there's a lot of trust there. So it is hard to build trust with him at first, but it's definitely beneficial. There's a very core group of us apprentices at this point, that about 15. In particular, that's actually in NorCal. We actually have most of them. There's probably a good 5 or 7 of us. So we all have shops, so we all talk to each other, we all trust each other because we've all been through the FAE program, so we all kind of speak the same language.
Right. Well, I definitely feel that sheet metal fabrication seems to be becoming a lost art. So seeing that you are leveling up and gaining the higher learning of this trade just looks like it's going to strengthen your core business.
Yeah, even if I don't do sheet metal shaping on a daily basis in the shop, just the simple sheet metal work that's done in race cars is done at a much higher level now, because it's all a lot easier for me, and I've just kind of learned all the tricks and stuff of how to get panel fitment just a little bit better, how to get beading done better, and just what the metal is going to do, and anticipating it instead of just kind of putting a guesstimate at it. I really know what it's going to do in the end.
Right. There's been a couple times where we've actually partnered up and worked on the same project, the same vehicle. Martin from SuperTech, he's been aspired to run in ST4. He had come to you guys for roll cage work. I just finished tuning his car. It made great power, and he just shook it down at Sonoma, and he's very happy with the car. Can you tell me a little bit about what his expectations were, what he wanted on the car, what you ended up building for him?
Yep, Martin's a great customer. We've worked on a couple of his projects and a couple of cars that he's helped sponsor over the years through SuperTech. So we've kind of had a relationship, and we've certainly purchased a lot of SuperTech products through them. Martin brought us a car. It was basically a driving events car, maybe some time trials, and said turn it into a race car a little bit earlier this year. So we gutted the car, we took all the sound deadening out, we built him a roll cage, we built him a proper seat mount, we lightened the car, kind of cleaned up the wire harness, we painted all the interior items. So now it's kind of a proper, clean race car and a good starting point to kind of build on in NASA's new ST4 class, which is a powered weight class.
Great. And I also hear that you are a certified tech inspector. So coming to TC Design, a customer who wants to get a roll cage built, not only can they get the fabrication done, but you can also sign off on it.
Correct. I'm an SFI licensed tech inspector. There's only around 50 of us in the NASA program. I am one of the few that is actually able to tech their own work in roll cages, and I take a real honor in that and make sure that the products come out of here, anyone can tech and they're going to pass. And it is a lot of pride in myself knowing that nothing leaves here that isn't up to safety standards. We do say no to some customers that want, more of a street style roll bar, but everything that comes out of here should be something that will be certified.
Right, safety comes first.
Yeah. This car started with me almost 7 years ago, and it evolved through the process. So it actually came to me as a Hellerot red E36 M3 street car, super clean. Had a Euro motor that was transplanted into it as a father and son. At that point, the son was around 8 or 9, and this was Dad's play toy. So we built a rear half in the car, just kind of a real simple one, still had full interior, everything, and we did a set of motons on it for suspension and a couple other little safety gear. Then as it evolved, Dad wanted to go a little faster, turned into kind of a driving events toy. We rebuilt the rear half. We built a front half of the cage, stripped the car out, still narrow body at that point. He drove it around like that for a couple seasons. Fast forward to last year, we put the wider flares on it. They repainted it again. They put another kind of built S54 into it, big wings, splitters, drove it around again a couple years. And then now it's basically turning into another NASA ST3 weapon. So it's going to get an S54. We've redone the rear section a third time. So now we've redone the rear shock towers to pick up coilover loads. We've tied into the subframes. We've put a rear fuel cell in it. We've also done a rear bulkhead all in sheet metal. We've added kind of the BMW Motorsport gussets from the E46 cars.
This work is amazing, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really hard piece to make. Even on the E46 M3s that BMW built, it's actually two pieces. So this is one half, and then this is another half, and they get welded. They get two welded together and cleaned up, and then they actually get fitted to the car at that point. All the holes are drilled, or at least a pilot hole on the car, so everything lines up straight. They're taken off the car, taken apart, they're dimple dyed, and they're put back together again, and then they're final fitted to the car and welded. These gussets are around 25 hours of labor just in the gussets. We built aluminum sheet metal dash, mainly because it's a little bit lower than the stock dash as well. We can sit lower in the car. The stock dash would be another 2 inches higher than this or so. And then we also built a custom center console that we'll put gauges and other switches in.
Now, is this car going to his son now? Is
Yep.
that what I'm hearing?
So his son is a really fast local NorCal go-kart racer. Has raced in both tag and also shifter karts. He's also done the Teen Spec Miata Challenge. And Joe is going to be driving this car now. So he's still in high school. It's going to be a super fast car for him, but I think he's going to have a lot of fun.
Right. Well, we look forward to this future driver, huh?
Yep.
Future pro driver in the works. Great.
He's definitely being groomed.
Nice. There are people that are interested in getting into the sheet metal trade or getting into the fabrication trade. Both you and I have been in this type of business for a long time. It's hard work. What piece of advice would you give the young aspiring people who aspire to fabricate, people who aspire to build, basically people who want to use their hands? What piece of advice would you give them to get into this trade?
I think there's a couple of them, and there's a couple different ways you can do it. One is go to a trade school, depending on which end you want to approach this market at. If it's fab department, there are a bunch of fab schools, especially in LA, that would get you a leg up. The other route is to be an apprentice at a shop. That's really hard these days because no one seems to want to put in the effort. You have to treat it like you are at school every day. So you've got to show up early, you've got to stay late, you've got to really have a passion of this is something you want to do for a long time. It's not just something to get a paycheck now. And the difference is, when you go home, you're going to go do some research of, okay, well, I couldn't really do that well today. I couldn't set up the welder as well as I wanted, what do I need to go do to learn how to do that for tomorrow? Instead of just waiting for someone to teach it to you, you need to actually go and put in the extra effort. So that's the biggest difference, is knowing that it's on you to make you the best you can be. And if you're not willing to put in that effort, being in business 15 years, that's not going to work. So even this long as we talked about with the sheet metal stuff, I am constantly trying to learn. My hashtag that I always use is never stop learning. I'm almost 40 years old, and I literally spend probably 10 to 20 hours a week learning. And that is why both of our shops keep excelling. We always are pushing what we're doing, the level of work that's coming out of both of our shops, and the level of support we're giving to customers.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting, you just touched on a point, and this may be a little too personal of a question, and I could just cut it, but we used to both share, basically we were shops next door to each other in Milpitas. I remember one day when I was walking in there, you probably had been in business for maybe 3 to 5 years, and there was a moment in your life where you thought you were gonna possibly close up shop and open up a restaurant. So I never followed up with you on it.
Yeah.
Obviously I know that you didn't go the restaurant route. What changed your mind, if you don't mind me asking?
A couple things. One, definitely personally, I have a hard time working for people, and it was going to be a partnership with my father, and I really didn't want to wreck a really good relationship that we have. And I could see just setting up some of the corporation stuff that we did, and setting up some of the holdings as far as the real estate and whatnot, that it wasn't going to go that well. We were both very type A personalities, and so that was definitely one reason. The second reason is I had no passion. It was just something where the economy was in a slight downturn. Being a race car fabricator was not the easiest thing at that point, but it still was what I wanted to do. So I just kind of stuck through it, and even in 2007, 2008, we just made some really smart moves. We downsized the building we were in. We sold off a couple of CNC machines. We just needed to do what we needed to do, and we ended up a couple years later then just getting the unit next to us, and then keep expanding, and then into this new building that we've been here for 4 years. So yeah, it's you're always thinking that the grass is greener, but on the other hand, what really drives you? And that's what kind of comes to your question before of, if you want to do this as a profession, if you have no real passion for this industry, it's not the right industry. Because yes, you can make good money, but you're not going to become rich, at least depending on what your definition of rich is, and you're going to put in a lot of hours. I would say the minimum hours I work is probably 50 to 60 hours a week. We're just getting on a crazy season right before race season, and the average was 80 to 100. So if you're not willing to put in those hours, and you're not willing to be positive when you're here, so that you can actually work with your coworkers and not have everyone hate each other, maybe something else. So definitely this is an industry of passion.
Okay. Well, Tony, thank you so much for your time. We're here today at the height of racing season, so for you to give me a moment to do this interview, I really do appreciate it. Big thanks to Tony and TC Design for taking the time and allowing us to interview him for our first inaugural shop spot. Follow him on Instagram at TC Design Fab, or check out his website at tcdesignfab.com. If you enjoy these shop spot videos, make some suggestions, leave us some feedback, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching Tune and Drive.